Well, I got caught up in grandparent duties and life duties and did some emergency chores, the things that needed to be done. First thing, we took care of those. But I haven't been over to move the cow, and it's about midday. It's right at noon, I think. We'll get these cows moved. I thought about I just gave them a much smaller portion yesterday. Thought about not moving them at all. Now, if you remember, we had a bit of an emergency move over here, and they were over in this section for about 60 hours. You can start to see some recovery. I did intentionally graze it hard because you can tell there's still some weeds and some heavy woody stuff, or really fibrous stuff here. So this is about 5 days of recovery here, and I just moved them off of this section up here. So this section over here has only got about a day's worth. And again, I was busy, and Madison had to take care of them, and she had a lot of things on her plate. So they were on there for 3+ days, and it was right about an acre. And I intentionally grazed it pretty heavy too. And I need to just come in and try to battle against some of these spirea and heavily wooded things. And then now I've gotten back into my pattern. They've only been over here for about a day. We'll be leaving a lot more behind this time, and we'll open them up into another section. You can see a lot of brambles and briars up there that need to be cut and managed. But we're just doing our best to claim it day by day and move by move. I'm going to try to talk about Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30 as we go through our chores today. A little bit behind, and I've got chicks coming at 3 o'clock this afternoon, 4 o'clock this afternoon that we have to go get. And Abby's got another graduation concert tonight for the choir. So we'll be busy trying to take care of some of those things. So I'm going to do our best to have a conversation about Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now, you didn't need to get up, Two Socks. You didn't need to get up. And one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to put in a back fence today, because I still have to develop a water system. I'm going to have to pump water. I hope to put some barrels or some containers at the top of the hill to pump some water up there and then gravity feed down. Either way, in the meantime, I'm going to have to pump some water out to some of these paddocks from down here, but no big deal. A couple times a day until I get it established up there. But they have water sources down here that I'll let them have for today. And then hopefully by tomorrow, I can, get them a water source and move them along with a back fence, and without letting them have access to stuff that they've already grazed. Now, in this verse, in this set of scriptures that we're looking at today, Jesus has invited the crowd to find rest in him. And because he is easy, his burden is easy compared to the yoke that they've been carrying. Their legalism bound up in all the rules and traditions that they have, that they've been living with to try to atone, to try to justify, really not themselves to God, but themselves to the system. Come to me, all who are burdened and heavy laden. My yoke is easy, my burden is easy, he says. So he's inviting these people to come and be relieved of the pressures, all of this legalistic pressure on top of life's hardships. I need to get in here with the chainsaw and the brush hog, get some of this autumn olive and multiflora rose and all these other weeds. Some of these other things we might be able to control just through grazing, but a lot of this other stuff we're going to need to get a little more aggressive with. And really, if I go back and look at videos from last year, it's remarkably better than what it was a year ago. Sometimes we think we can just fix our problems on our own. We think that self-reliance and self-help is the way to go to fix our problems. Sometimes we think we can just escape them. Sometimes Melissa and I get to go out of town or on a vacation and we feel like we have left all of our burdens and problems behind. But in reality, they're still right there with us, all those pressures, and we can try to ignore them and try to forget about them. But all those pressures are still with us. But like I talked about in my discussion on Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7, and I preached a sermon lately on Philippians 4, verses 4 through 9, it's a supernatural thing. The rest that Jesus offers is a refreshment from the world that comes from someplace that we don't understand, something that we desperately need. And it's available to all who trust in Him. Those who trust in Him have this supernatural peace, the supernatural rest that we can lay our problems aside and dwell in Him, allow Him to have the place in our lives that He deserves, first place. When we focus on Him, when we, like Philippians 4 calls us to do Christ-like things, to do things that are pleasing to God. When we do those things, we're far less concerned about these problems, the pressures, the deadlines, the bills, all the things that are in front of us. And it looks like I gave them maybe twice as much as yesterday, or maybe a third more than yesterday. So we'll see how they use it up. And you can see that as we move away from that bottom where the water source was, the grass is not quite as thick, so we're still doing some big time recovery up here. You can still see a lot of that brown stuff underneath, but this hadn't been grazed up until last year. This hadn't been grazed for years and years, so we'll get these nutrients back in the ground, let these cows deposit all that organic matter. It's not, you don't have to be, a lot of people stress about whether they're getting the exact move right per day, but you have the ability to flow a little bit. So they got a little more than they did yesterday. We'll just watch them. Do they need 12 more hours on it? Do they need 8 more hours on it to use it up appropriately? And then we'll move them on, or maybe we'll just move them on even if they haven't taken full advantage. But you don't have to be so perfect about it. You have the ability to be flexible. First, the invitation is to take my yoke, as opposed to follow these rules. That's the system that the Pharisees had been pushing on the people. Follow my rules to every letter, to Jesus saying, take my yoke. It demands a choice. It demands that you choose Him, you choose forgiveness, you choose trust, you choose love over submitting yourself to rules and works-based systems. And it further demands that you separate yourself from the world. Everybody's in pursuit, and I'm guilty. I'm guilty of pushing it on my children. Everybody's in pursuit of a career. Everybody's in pursuit of a better life. But then that comes along with a lot of problems. You have to submit yourself to pressures. You have to submit yourself to other standards. When we take up His yoke and we surrender ourselves to Him and follow His way, we find ourselves at ease. We find ourselves having peace, and we're far more concerned with His priorities. And when when we do receive a blessing, when we do receive some financial gain or a promotion in our job or something in life that comes our way, it's not seen as a result of our own effort and all the struggle that we've put in. But we're better able to accept the gift that God has given us, and it's more peaceful. Instead of begrudging the work that goes into it, it's blessing the opportunity to serve our Lord and to have Him care for us through our troubles and through our blessings. What yokes are people wearing today? Social media, ambition, hobbies, any kinds of distractions. Maybe their form of religion or lack thereof tells them that they need to do certain things or be certain things to please God. All sorts of yokes that pull people away from satisfaction in life. When we think about our purpose, and man, I have the black dog creeps up on me sometimes, get depressed, get stressed out about things. But when I remember my purpose, I remember my purpose is to bring God glory, and I'm able to live in that space, then every little thing has a greater meaning. Every little thing is a blessing and not seen as a burden. And I struggle with that all the time because I get stressed out. I get worried about how I'm going to pay bills and how I'm going to do things. And it bogs me down. So it's just not me pointing the finger. This is me having a conversation with and for myself and how I need to more properly surrender day by day. So I assume all you girls had your breakfast this morning and you're going to take a little comfort under the shade of the trees, which then does beg another question because I haven't quite figured out how to do a portable shade system yet. And I'm going to have some moves where I don't have shade available to you. But the fence is open to another section, another quarter to half an acre. And you can go enjoy that when you feel like it. And you've pretty much consumed all the consumable stuff here. And I've got a chicken brooder to clean out. Not quite as bad as coming out of winter. And some people just leave that piled up through the whole season. But I don't like to do that. I like to start with a clean, fresh bed every time. So we're going to clean out this sawdust and manure, chicken manure, and have it fresh for these new chicks that are coming in. Jesus says, "Learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly at heart." It's a humility. It's a humbleness. Do we live in a culture today that is gentle and humble? Not at all. I mean, even just recording these videos, I hope that I am recording videos so that I'm taking the gospel message to those around me. But surely there's some quality of look at me. I don't think that we have the ability to 100% move away from that. I mean, we see this fella, this outdoor boy, who just kind of stepped away from his YouTube channel because he became too famous, and that's admirable. But I think in general, the culture is to go and gain. And I sit here and wonder, I say, well, if he's supporting his family that way, and isn't there some way he can manage that? But he wants to have a sense of privacy. At least that's what he says. And there's no way for me to argue with that. I hope that I'm creating videos so that I'm taking the message of the gospel to those around me. Learn from me because I am gentle and lowly at heart. The rules of the Pharisees weren't gentle. A lot of churches aren't gentle with their people. A lot of people who read the Bible are very harsh. Other religions are very harsh. He calls us to follow him, take up my yoke, follow me, learn from me. I am gentle and humble and lowly at heart. I think one way we can, as believers or as people in general, But certainly as believers, I think that one way we can learn this humility is to learn to serve one another. There used to be a fella in my church. He's since passed away, but he talked about how the church used to be the center of the community. It used to be the center of people's lives, the place that took care of people. And over time, the government and the state has taken over that, and people have become accustomed to that. And maybe churches haven't been so kind. Maybe churches haven't been so focused on um, doing service work to others. And maybe I have seen also in churches that instead of taking up an offering or giving of their coffers, that they would say, well, there's a state program for this or that. And that's just not what we're called for. And that just speaks to an attitude of self-preservation. Even in the church, you say, well, why should the church give this? Or why should the church give that? Or why should the church take care of this person or that person? There's a state program for that. That isn't what we're called for. That isn't what we're supposed to be doing, not as a church and not as a people. Individually, busy, busy, busy. I don't have time for anybody. It's me personally. I do not have time to give any of my time away. So I don't. And it's a dreadful thing, but we should be visiting. We shouldn't be so busy that we have caused ourselves the inability to be with a brother or sister when they need us. The lack of time visiting in hospitals, the lack of time visiting in homes, the lack of time counseling, the lack of time just enjoying someone for the sake of their company. We don't do that because we're so caught up in the busyness of life. We're either working, pursuing our hobbies, pushing our children into 1,000 different activities, or we've got our social media to check out, or we've got television programs to look into. Something else has taken the place of that humility, that humbleness to serve other people. Well, the brooder's all cleaned out, ready for 100 birds. We busted a couple light bulbs outside, trying to keep those first batch chickens warm after I put them outside because it's still been pretty cold outside. In fact, the end of this week, of course, we're getting new birds. We've got birds in here. We'll have birds outside, and higher elevations could get some snow. I'm not sure if I got a piece of glass in my hand or what, but so it's calling for, we're going to get down to like 40 degrees. So, of course, we're going to have to provide a bunch of heat for these little tiny birds and for the birds that are outside. Because even though they're 5-ish, 6 weeks old, they don't have a good feather cover. The breeds just don't have good feather cover, and they will pile on each other. So I'm probably going to have to get a little bit creative to divide them into quadrants or provide some heat out there for those couple of nights it gets real cold. I'll keep an eye on them and see how tightly they pile on to each other. I did put an additional water in there. They had already drank 5 gallons of water today, and I put an additional water in there. And those little feeders right there is where I start them out in. I just like to give them a lot of headspace. It looks like Millie put a stick in there. I've got another big feeder like that up with the egg layers, and really they need to be moved out into that little structure over there. I need to get that structure moved and covered. I wanted to do it a month ago, but you can only do so much, you know? Well, I didn't think I'd be clear at the end of the day finishing up my video, but we went and got the chicks and got back and had to hustle to Abby's choir concert. So here we are, closing out the day as the sun has set and the clouds are rolling in. Now that the wind's kicked up across the mic, you probably won't be able to hear me very well. But these are the types of things that cause anxiety in people, cause us to have struggles Just the busy, busy, busy. And then you wonder why. Why don't people have, Jesus says, I'll have rest for your souls. Trust in me and you'll have rest for your souls. Why don't we have that? It's because we don't trust in him. We don't surrender ourselves over to him. We haven't given ourselves over to him. We don't allow ourselves to be at peace with him because we surround ourselves with activity and we surround ourselves with phones and social media and television, and we just and then instead of relying on him, we look for outward means to satisfy alcohol, drugs, hobbies, distractions, any sort of fleshly desire we look to fill the void instead of just trusting solely in Christ to give us rest. We do not go to him enough. We don't go to him often enough, for sure. We don't go to him in the right moments, for sure. Now I have all the covers off of him now, and I got one little guy who's not going to make it, I don't think, and that typically happens. Usually you lose some right off the bat. But you can see I need to get the other two lights in here, and we'll get the hard covers in. I'm just always so fascinated with these little chickens. They're just so much fun. They give me so much pleasure. So the winds are blowing in here. I get them covered up. This poor little guy, he's probably not going to make it. We may try to go rehabilitate him, see if he can get warmed up. But they're only a day old, so sometimes they just don't have what it takes. We're going to get some more lights in here and get these guys covered back up for the night. I'm not sure about this little fella. He's still got some movement. I got him right in there in the hot pocket, right next to my heart, trying to get him some heat. I don't know. He might make it. I don't think so. Kind of makes you think about that easy yoke that Jesus promises us. If we follow him, his yoke is easy. His burden is light. I'm often worried about productivity. Just come from that. He's peeping. He's warming up a little bit. Coming from that world of productivity, and wondering what legacy I'll leave behind, and worried about what will people think of you. All of those things. When really, none of this is going with me. That comes from Ecclesiastes. None of this is going with me. The legacy is found in my service to him, bringing glory to him. The legacy is found in what type of kids I raise. And that's where the legacy is. And there's all kinds of burdens. We had a cow die a week or so ago, almost 2 weeks ago. We've had 2 cows die this spring. Terrible, terrible blow. These chickens aren't nearly as valuable, but we care for them just the same. We don't want to lose any of them. We know that they're a lot more fragile, and we sometimes do lose them, and we probably will lose some. But we have a dedication to trying to give them the best shot, doing our best, being good stewards, because that's what his burden is. His burden is love and trust and faith. I'll take his yoke. I'll pull for him. And if I settle myself in that, if I settle myself in knowing that my purpose is to bring glory to God, my direction is the way, is following Christ, then all these other things means far less how much I have in my bank account. I don't worry near as much about how fancy my house or my cars are when they're not going with me. I can look cool now. I can have a good time with all the fancy stuff now. I can worry about those things and have anxiety over those things. Or I can get up in the morning, bend my knee, and call out to Him, and have rest for my soul throughout my days. That sounds a lot more appealing, doesn't it? It's been a long day. It's dark. It's getting dark and rainy. It's not quite dark. It's not quite dark yet, but it's getting dark. The rain is coming down. Still, probably got to feed that baby calf yet tonight. This little chick is peeping. Maybe go get him on a heat pad or something. He's peeping. Might have just been cold. The wind's coming through. I need to get these other chicks covered. You can see them back here behind me. They got more lights. They're probably going to pile in a little bit. But you all have a good night. Have a good day, whatever time you watch this. Bend your knee to Jesus. And have rest for your souls. Love y'all.